Our next guest says the Biden administration shouldn't simply agree to a one-year debt ceiling reprieve because that would set the stage for an election year showdown with House Republicans. Joining us right now, Peter Orszag. He's the CEO of financial advisory firm at Lazard and the former director of the Office of Management and Budget under President Obama. Good morning to you. Peter, you probably just heard Rick there. I want to talk about the idea of just, how long you think this should go. I appreciate the election year issue that you're raising. But at the same time, I'm curious, when Rick said he thinks that the administration is not being forthright with the public around our debt and deficit, you think that's true, too?
Well, there's a whole debate to be had about the fiscal trajectory, and that is a complicated topic. We do have long-term problems, so I don't want to deny any of that. But that's a separate question from whether this particular mechanism is a good or a bad thing in terms of even dealing with those long-term problems. I don't think it is. So, yes, there's a long-term problem, but no, this is not the right way to address it.
Is there a way to do this, though, as a clean bill, the way the Democrats say they want to, or do you think that there's some compromise in the middle?
I really hope there's some compromise, but I'm not, we're not seeing it so far. Not very hopeful. So,
what do you think a reasonable compromise on the Democrat side would be, and a reasonable compromise on the Republican side would be?
I really think the only pathway that I could possibly see is a very, very modest, not limited to non-defense discretionary type of spending restriction or a cap. I don't think that would pass on the House Republican side. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's a very, very narrow path that's not just a clean bill. So I think we, unfortunately, and I respect Secretary Yellen's not wanting to go there, but I think we need to be playing through the hypotheticals of what if there is no deal and what is the least bad scenario in that case.
We had Jake Sherman on from Punchbowl this morning. He did an interview with Jamie Dimon, who said that he fears that this time could be different. In fact, that a mistake could get made. We've seen the movie. We've seen the movie 11 minutes, 59 seconds, and invariably a deal gets done. But what do you think the chances are that a deal doesn't get done?
They're too high, which is why, again, first best is to see if there is a deal. But if there isn't one, among the very, very unattractive options at that point, I personally think that the invoking Section 4 of the 14th Amendment is going to be the best approach. Not that it's a good approach.
Yep.
A much better approach is to reach a deal. But among the unattractive options, that would be the best option in that, very bad scenario.
Peter,
and it would have the silver lining.
Explain, though, that piece of the amendment to the audience. We were talking about Larry Tribe's op-ed in the New York Times about this just 2 days ago, but it's a complicated issue. So explain it if you could.
It basically says that the debt should not be questioned, and there was only one Supreme Court case that has spoken to this issue about how to interpret it, Perry versus the United States in 1935. In that ruling, the Supreme Court adopted a pretty expansive view of what not questioning the debt means, and so it raises the question of whether the debt limit is even constitutional, and therefore, if the administration is faced with a choice of prioritization, which I don't think would work, or default, which would be horrendously bad, I think the better option, again, it's not great, but the better option would be to invoke that amendment and say the debt limit does not apply. It would have the benefit, if the courts upheld that perspective, of just getting rid of this albatross once and for all, which, frankly, I think would be a good thing.
Do you believe that this court would rule in favor of that, given just how that court is stacked these days?
I think, again, it's, there is a precedent that this court has, in other cases, been willing to overrule precedent, but that says something. And again, this is, I don't know for sure, Andrew, which is why this is not a great option. A better option is to reach a deal, but you're in a mess if you get past the X date, and among the unattractive options, this would be the least unattractive. Right. Especially, by the way, I mean, we have other other crises going on, including an ongoing regional banking situation.
Which is where I wanted to go with the conversation. Which is where I wanted to go with the conversation next. Which is, you've been in the middle of it. I mean, really right in the thick of the First Republic deal and everything else. Where do you think we really are in this crisis? It doesn't seem like it's over yet, even though the market seems to be acting a little bit like it may be.
I don't think it's over yet. I mean, the deposit base at most of these regional and community banks seems to still be sticky, which is a good thing. But obviously, equity prices are really volatile. And I think there are things that the government can do, including providing a clearer signal of their intent to cover all uninsured if any other banks fail, and including having the SEC finally actually move forward with Section 929X of the Dodd-Frank legislation, which has to do with disclosure on a monthly basis on short sales. They've been dragging their feet in getting this done. It would be very helpful because it looks like a lot of this volatility is associated with short selling. There should at least be more transparency on that front. And again, the law was passed more than a decade ago, so I don't know why the SEC has been dragging its feet.